Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat. So, Konosuba 2 has been released in English. We know that much from our new Explosions deck tech. This was really exciting for me because I love both the show and the Weiss set, and one of the big reasons I do is because the flavor is so prominent in the cards. But players, I have some major complaints concerning the flavor of this next deck tech. In Konosuba 2, Megumin explodes, Darkness is a pervert, but there's one thing that Bushiroad got totally wrong. Aqua is not at all useless. In fact, she's the featured character on some of the most busted cards that came out recently. Personally, I think all the Aqua cards that come out should be like Blow God. I mean, God Blow. But since they're not, we're doing another new Konosuba deck tech. Another revisitation to an old Konosuba deck, now revamped with new fancy combos and tools from Set 2. It's the Goddess deck. So without further ado, let's have a look at it. At first glance, one thing sticks out about this deck. It actually hasn't changed nearly as much as the Explosion deck did. Whereas that deck had about 60% turnover, the Goddess deck only changed about 30% of its overall body. At all levels, you see that we retain much of the old guard. But just like the Explosions deck, we got a new level 1 combo and some new support level 3s. At level 0, the theme remains the same. We kept the main body, but we switched out some of the more mediocre choices for some more tailored tools that Set 2 introduced. So like before, we'll start with what made the cut from Set 1, then move into what's new from Set 2. Oh look, it's Board Game Megumin. This is the 4th time I've introduced this card as a first in a level 0 lineup, and honestly, even though it's a great card, I'm getting kind of tired of it. It's a 1k free runner, and when you play it, you can pitch a climax to salvage an adventurer or magic character. In this deck, it can't salvage your heiresses, but since Heiress actually got cut from the level 1 lineup, this card actually got better for us, if you can believe that. It's a 4 of because it's just so handy and good value. So let's just leave it right at that and move along. Significance of killing Snow Sprite's Aqua is another obvious 4 of in this deck. 2500 power, and when it comes in, you can clock a card from your hand and search your deck for a Goddess character. It's a cost 0 search that grabs 90% of our deck, which is already amazing. And we know from Set 1 that so long as this card is in your clock, your level 3 Heiress, which is still here, has early play. By the way, this is the only card I know of that can fill an early play condition by its own effect. If you clock a Snow Sprite with her own effect, you can get around being locked out of your early play condition from either an awkward level up or not having it in your hand at the start of the turn. Long story short, this is our bread and butter, so let's move down the line. Troublemaker Aqua. Certainly one of the most unique brainstormers in English Weiss. And even though being unique doesn't make things good automatically, this card is no holds barred amazing. First, the character in the middle position of your stage has Hand Encore. Not bad. Its brainstorm effect is tap self, mill 4. For every climax you hit, you can choose a cost 0 character in your waiting room and put it on any position of your stage. I'll reiterate for clarity, cost 0. That means at level 0, if you have your 1-0s in your waiting room, this card can bring them to the stage. On the surface, that's a pretty busted ability. Now consider that this means you can execute your level 1 combos at level 0. Yikes. Feeling a little level starved, got a bunch of level 1s in your hand? No worries, Troublemaker Aqua has your back. Face down your opponent's level 0s with your level 1s and laugh your troubles away with Troublemaker Aqua. Anyway, that's a great place to cap off the Set 1 level 0s that made the cut for us. Now let's have a good look at what Set 2 brought to the table. We'll start off with a character we haven't seen in any of our Konosuba decks before, Chris, the girl most famous for getting her panties stolen over and over. She gets a little cameo in our Goddess deck as our second Brainstormer. In our first deck, we ran Fool of Anxiety Kazuma as our backup search Brainstormer. Well, Chris is the same for us, as she taps 2 and searches, but Kazuma had a Climax combo that we didn't run, so that was kind of useless to us. Instead, this new Chris gives the character in the middle position of your stage plus 1500 during your turn. That's a difference of only 1 ability, but it's a huge improvement for us, since not much in the Goddess deck actually gives power boosts. It helps our level 1 combo, which needs to reverse, makes our level 3 Heiress 11k instead of 9-5, and makes Sacred Turn on Dead Aqua a daunting 8-5. It's only on our turn, but honestly, that's where it counts. And that's Chris. A small but valuable improvement for us. What else did Set 2 give? Well, now we have a new Aqua. Soul Salvation Aqua has that all too valuable top check ability when she comes in. Top check for a character, add to hand, then pitch a card. Many sets in Weiss have a level 0 that does this in some way, and it's one of the best filtering abilities on a level 0. So we're very glad to have it. And instead of another more standard ability like Suicide or Power Gaining, this level 0 is actually a refresh on a stick. When she comes in, just pay 2 and you can refresh without taking damage. Players, this is amazing for us. If you're having one of those games where all your climaxes are out of your deck by turn 3, this card can totally turn the game around for you. How do you like to cancel all that damage at level 0 and then not have to worry about the rest of your deck? It even has a built-in discard outlet, so if you have some stuck in your hand, you can get rid of them. Soul Salvation Aqua? More like Compression Salvation Aqua. What a great addition for us. We've got one more set 2 addition here, and it's Decoy Aqua, a 500 power level 0. When she comes in, you mill 2. If you hit a climax, she takes no penalty for side attacking this turn. Alright, that's kind of interesting. And when she's reversed, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a level 0 or lower, you can add it to your hand. This is a pretty interesting card. One great thing is that she's not big enough to trigger some of the juicy reverses for your opponent, and she'll die no matter what if you front attack. It keeps your opponent from getting their own reverses off, and about 35% of the time, she'll replace herself. That seems pretty good. Decoy Aqua kind of represents a bit of a shift on what we want a level 0 to do for us. She's more of a card that denies your opponent their tricks than sticks around and generates value for you. I'm very interested to see whether or not more lineups shift to include more cards like this, or whether Bushi will even print more in English. Either way, I like her in this deck, and she's a nice little addition for us. Alright, so our level 0 is a great mix of old and new. Instead of completely changing the nature of our level 0, set 2 gave it a little leg up with some new tools, but that's also because set 1 level 0s were already pretty damn great. I don't think that on its own this level 0 is totally busted as a whole, but there are definitely cards that shine through as super powerful. I give this lineup a straight A. Let's move to the level 1. If you remember our old level 1 lineup from the Goddess deck, you'll notice that only 4 cards have changed. But these are very critical cards for us, as they represent the whole of our level 1 combo. The support cards around them, however, remain the same, so let's take a second look at them. Sacred Create Water Aqua is a great level 1 to start with. She's a 105k that on death Akatsuki's for 3. It's pretty simple and good value, and keep in mind that any card in this deck that costs 0 stock can come out at level 0. She's a competitively costed filter tool for us. Everything on her and why she's here is pretty self-explanatory, so let's move on. Sacred Turn Undead Aqua keeps her treasured 4 slots since she's one of the most annoying level 1s to deal with in the deck. She's a 107k, and she sends anything she reverses to memory. That's pretty damn good. She does have a downside, which is if her battle opponent is higher level than her, she can't front attack, so be very careful when moving her around. But a 107k memory bomb can be a massive problem for any opponent to deal with, especially if it comes down at level 0. You can kick suiciders, tutors, bombs, and other useful tools straight to memory. That's really dumb. Sacred Turn Undead Aqua has always been one of the strongest level 1s in Konosuba, and it's no surprise she's here. Now, there is one more character at level 1 from set 1. Shaken Megumin is still in the deck because, like we said before, the free anti-change at level 1 is just too good to turn down. The 1k backup ability can get a little mileage, but it's not really why it's here. Given that set 2 gave us some amazing early plays, this anti-change is even more important than ever. And that's where we end the set 1 cards, but that's almost our entire level 1 lineup. That said, we haven't actually seen our level 1 combo. It's the only new card at level 1, and I replaced Eris from set 1. This is setting out Aqua. She's a 105k, and her only ability is her Climax combo. When her battle opponent becomes reversed, if In the Name of the Goddess is in your Climax zone, you can pay 1. If you do, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Take all Adventurer, Goddess, or Axis Cult members among them, and put them into your hand. Put the rest into your waiting room. Excuse me, but what the fuck? Is this a +3 for 1 stock? Well, it's a possible +3. Hitting a Climax kind of hurts, and hitting 2 is kind of brutal, but most of the time this will be at least a +2 for 1 stock. And that's just stupid and broken. This Aqua generates more value than investing in Apple in the 1980s, and I want to point out that just because of the sheer numbers, and the fact that you don't have to discard for the ability, you really only need one of these to go off to fill your hand again. If you use 2 of these and get +5 or +6, you can pick and choose what to discard from your hand, which makes them a filtering tool as well. But there is something to mention here, and that's that a 5k body needs to reverse something to get the combo off. Well, this was a problem that Bushiroad considered at great length. Sending off Chris adds +1.5k to the middle center, but that's only 6.5. So how do we get this off? Well, do we give her a book or a pants? Nah, that's not going to be strong enough. How about a 2k1? No, those are pretty terrible. A split 2k1? Not a bad idea. That could work. And then some guy in the corner of the room spoke up and said, Guys, what if her Climax was a split 3k1? And the room exploded with approval. Yes, In the Name of the Goddess is a split 3k1 Climax, making these Aquas a staggering 8k without other boosts. Oh, that's how they get the reverses off. That's totally not insane. Now, this 3k1 split can only be used on blue characters, but oh look, the whole deck is blue. What a surprise. Players, I won't lie to you, I think this is one of the most busted level 1 combos I've ever seen. I may be off the mark, but on the surface and on the numbers, this is just stupid. Split 3k1 to pay 1 and add up to 3, likely 2 or more cards, to your hand. There are so few cards that can even come close to that, it's uncanny. This gives the Goddess deck a totally new outlook on every matchup. 8k is an extremely respectable power to expect a reverse combo to go off, and it's not like you need a third one to reverse. Even one of these going off is a huge plus. Pad your hand, thin your deck, and get some high power reverses. Not too shabby in the slightest. Alright, if you combine setting off Aquas with the 2 Sacred Aquas, you get a pretty disgusting level 1 lineup. You have a free filter, a 7k memory kick for free, then a pay 1 add 3. And remember, since the climax is a 3k1, you can make your Sacred Waters 8k, and your Sacred Turn Undeads 10k. 10k Sacred Turn Undead Aquas. Sorry, I puked in my mouth a little bit there. Oh, and there's a free level 1 anti-change in here. Players, I don't care, I'm giving this level 1 an S rank. It has to be one of the strongest level 1 combos and the best level 1s that cost no stock that I've seen in English. I don't think there's too much question, at least not in my mind. But we've spent enough time there, so let's get moving right on to level 2. And this is interesting. We have no characters, but 2 different events. Senpai Appears is still here as a 2 of. You can pay 1 and choose up to 2 Goddess characters. If those 2 characters would go to the waiting room this turn, return them to their previous positions as rest instead. This used to be very important for us since it saved our early play heiresses. We still have heiresses to save, but now we have other great targets. More level 3 goddesses, and even a level 1 that could be worth saving. Keeping your setting off Aquas around for an extra turn is pretty damn good, so Senpai Appears is still great for us, and even better now. A new addition to the event lineup is Confiscation of Private Property. When you use this counter, your opponent takes all their stock and puts it into their waiting room. Then, at the end of the turn, they put the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. That can be pretty devastating. It shuts off combos that require heavy amounts of stock, and it can ruin your opponent's compression. It can turn a kill combo turn into just some normal attacks. And when you stand after using this counter, you'll be swinging into a potentially ruined deck. Pretty powerful, and you can use it at level 2. So if your opponent goes all in when they hit level 3 first, this stops them in their tracks. I'm sure people will be having nightmares about how many climaxes could get stuck in their stock like this. So this is a big inclusion and an awesome new tool for us. So when we're looking at ranking this level 2, a big thing to remember is that there are no characters here. There are many reasons for that, but it does make ranking it a little more difficult. These events are great though, so I'm giving the level 2 a straight A. Now it's time to look at the level 3. We see our old friends Aqua and Aeris, which were already good for us, but there's another addition here. We'll get to her after we, as usual, start with the old and then bring in the new. Starting off with Bless with Kind Encounters Aeris, this is basically our finishing game, and she comes out at level 2 so long as Snow Sprite Aqua is in your clock. Already, that's pretty good tempo. When she comes in, she salvages a character for you, so she comes out early and she replaces herself. You can also use this ability to chain Aerises, which is pretty disgusting. And then, and this is the juicy part, when the character in the middle position of your center stage attacks, you can pay 1 and pitch 2. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an adventurer or goddess character, you can stand this card. So it's a 1-stock restander. On the math, it's going to hit about 80% of the time since it misses on climaxes and events. But if you reveal a character, it's a very low-costed restander. Aeris is a pretty good finisher, and if you keep track of your deck, she's pretty consistent. Hitting a stray climax hurts, but still. That's a pretty low cost for an early play restander. Now, she doesn't get any more base power, but the split 3k1 climax and sending off Chris now boost her more than the old version of the deck did. So like all things featured, she's only gotten better. Aeris has always been an extremely strong card, and you'll see more of her in the coming months. Moving on to her Kohai, Aqua the namesake is also still here. During her battle, opponents can't use any backups or counters. Then when she comes in, you can pay an extra 1 and choose up to 2 climaxes in your opponent's waiting room. Then your opponent shuffles the rest of their waiting room into their deck, because this deck totally needed another way to ruin your opponent's compression. That's going to make your restanders extra spicy, if you know what I mean. This can absolutely ruin a compressed deck, and turn a dead turn for you into a dying turn for your opponent. Now, Aqua also has a climax combo. We still run Resurrection because it's a pants, so it grabs our level 1 combo, and there aren't too many others that are too competitive for the spot. And the combo isn't bad at all either. If you pitch a card when you play the climax, you can choose an adventurer or goddess in your clock and put it on any position of your stage, so potentially this could be a free Aeris. Not bad at all. Oh, and it gets around anti-heal. Overall, Aqua supports us nicely in this lineup, so let's move on to the new technology. The last card in the deck, and the new addition to the level 3 lineup, is Mesmerizing Water Goddess Aqua. If you have 4 or more Goddess, Adventurer, or Axis Church Devotee characters, she has early play. Seems good. She also gets plus 2k on your turn if all your other characters are Adventurer, Goddess, or Axis Church Devotee. So an 11k basically unconditional early play. But get this, when she comes in, you can pitch a card and heal to stock. Heal to stock. One of the best abilities ever to be printed, on an early play with basically no conditions, in a deck where we can replenish our hand size like nobody's business. It seems real good. Without question, this Aqua is amazing for us, and it totally beats out our old early play Darkness, at least for this deck. And that's our level 3. We only had one new addition, but it's a pretty powerful one. It adds another heal source to the deck, and it means that most of our level 3s come out the moment you hit level 2 without any conditions that are hard at all to meet. Now, there aren't any super blowout finishers in this lineup, but it does attack more than 3 times and it can ruin your opponent's compression. Oh, and did we mention almost all of it comes out at level 2? You sure? I give it a solid A+. And that, players, is the new Goddess deck. Like we said before, not nearly as much has changed, but the stuff that has is a pretty big improvement. Overall, the deck isn't too different, but some lines of play do change, so let's go over a little bit of how to use it. As is tradition, our good opening plays are Board Game Megumin, and this time we add Decoy Aqua to our frontline lineup. It's a little tough for your opponent to play around because giving you more free level 0s early in the game probably isn't good. Like we've mentioned before, a very strong play at level 0, if you know you can hit it, is to get Troublemaker Aqua out and get some level 1s on the board. You can do some serious damage to your opponent's tempo here. You can even get your level 1 combo off before you even level up. You can also use Snow Sprites to grab your level 1 combo, and Chris to get some good reverses off in the center. She does make your Snow Sprites 4k. I'd recommend aggressively discarding to find your Climax combo, since the deck has some great waiting room interaction, including Pants. Transitioning into level 1, the obvious play is to make sure you have the combo. If not, don't worry about it too much since your level 1s are good value on their own. Now when you do get the level 1 combo off, remember that there's no reason to overcommit to it. You don't need to draw 9 cards, so you have some flexibility on where you want to put your combo characters on the stage. Getting even one of these off generates huge advantage, so instead of trying to set up 3 reverses, focus on 1 or 2. At this point, just try to keep a Snow Sprite in your hand for your early play condition. Just ride on your good combos in level 1s and move right into level 2. This is the part where you lay down your wall of level 3s. A few things to be careful of here. First, don't heal away your early play condition with Mesmerizing Goddess. That's a real feels bad, man. Second, be careful with your Sacred Turn on dead Aquas. It's easy to place them in front of level 2s or even level boosted level 1s, and when you hit the Climax phase, it's all too late, and they won't do you any good against early plays, so always double check your placement of them, and at this point, look for a Senpai appears to make sure you can keep your valuable targets alive. Now this is where we also talk about anti-change. The deck runs a level 1 anti-change, so it can be devastating to use. Knowing your matchup is very important here. Primarily, does my opponent pack anti-change, and does my opponent's deck play early plays? If you're going to run into anti-change in the matchup, line up your attack so you don't get blown out by it. Attack to the side or direct before you attack with your early play. Losing an heiress to an anti-change is just brutal. So this is a big thing to keep in mind. Try to hold on to confiscation of private property if you can find one, and of course, prepare for your final turn. Really, the only thing you're doing at level 3 is playing your Aqua. Take one final turn to screw with your opponent's compression and try to close the game with a few heiresses. Remember, when you add a soul trigger, you keep that for the rest of the turn. So if you attack with heiress, trigger, and end up with something like 4 soul, you can swing to the side against a level 3 for more pinpoint damage. If you're short on stock, you can also grab a level 3 heiress from your clock with Aqua's combo. Heiress also salvages for you, so even holding one heiress can grab a whole finishing game from the waiting room. Just do what the deck does best and you'll have pretty smooth sailing into the close. Okay, so let's move on to my closing thoughts on this deck. The Goddess deck was already pretty powerful. Heiress has an early play, and the combination of Troublemaker Aqua and Sacred Turn on dead Aqua was already tough to deal with. I piloted Konosuba's old Goddess deck competitively for a long while, and I really loved its toolkit. Without a doubt, Konosuba 2 made the deck a lot better. It didn't change the deck nearly as much as Megumin, but the set added stuff that can really strengthen it against the new meta. New Goddess has a lot of built-in consistency. It doesn't have the big finish that a lot of decks have these days, but it has huge tempo. Its level 1 comes out at level 0, and its level 3 comes out at level 2. And it has some pretty good counter events, ones that can even shut down a lot of finishing games. This deck can really tempo out for the victory. I can't wait to test this deck more against what's big right now, because I think it can do really well. I will say this though, because of the deck's many search interactions, the tempo control, and general management of resources, I think this deck will take a lot of skill to master. It's going to be very important to know your matchups here, especially with all your early plays. So pick it up, practice a lot, and dive deep into the new Goddess deck. Alright players, it's been a fun one for us. I was really looking forward to revisiting the Goddess deck after Set 2 came out because I was so dedicated to the Set 1 version for such a long time. And I was not disappointed. It's also worth mentioning that Set 1 actually got a reprint when Set 2 was released, so if you're looking to build this deck, or the new Explosion deck, you may have a much easier time finding those Set 1 pieces. I'd encourage you to go out and look for them if you really want to try these decks out. There's no better time. Now, Goddess and Explosions were the two decks we teched from Konosuba 1. Obviously, they got a second look when Set 2 came out. But players, the best is yet to come. Look forward to a totally new deck tech for 3-6 Cancel now that Set 2 is dropped. I think you know what it might be, so keep an eye out. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.